What is up, book nerds? My name is Hillary and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be doing a book unhaul. It has been probably a month and a half since the last time I did a video for a book unhaul. And I've recently been reading some books and have been looking at my shelf and was like, okay, I didn't really love this book, so I don't really need to keep all the books that I read, even if I really want to keep them for when my kids are older, because that would just be so many books at one time and I don't have that much shelf space. So I have about 10 to 12 books here that I'm getting rid of, and let's get into it and I will explain why I'm getting rid of certain books as we go. So the first book on this stack is one that I was really hoping to love because I love this author's book that I originally read first of hers, which was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and this one just didn't do it for me. I got done reading it and I was like, okay, what did I just read? But I did buy a special edition of this book, and I'm very sad that I did not love it, and that book is Gallant by v.e.schwab. Like I said, I was hoping to love this book, and I ended up not really enjoying it. It's supposed to be, I think, an adult book, but it's more of like a YA or even middle grade book to read. It's about this girl who can hear, but she can't talk, and she's in this orphanage and finds out one day that her uncle sent a letter to this orphanage saying that he would love for her to come live with them. And she goes to the house and all of a sudden things start happening and she's seeing things. But yeah, I love this cover. I think it's gorgeous. The back is even pretty also. And it's also signed by v.e.schwab. But like I said, I didn't really enjoy this, so I just don't want it to sit on my shelf and collect dust. I would rather it go to somebody who will know that they love it and will enjoy it more than I did. The next two books are part of a duology, and I've had these books on my shelf for years. I got them at Goodwill years ago. I saw the movie and loved it, and that's why I bought this book, and then I bought the second book. But those two books are If I Stay and Where She Went, both by Gail Forman. These books, I'll say, the first book was good. It's just like the movie. But once I listened to it and read it, I don't need to reread it because it's your typical YA book from back in the day. And Where She Went, I got about 30% into listening to it and just never went back to it. So I figured that was a sign to get rid of these books and pass them on to somebody who will love them. The next book on this stack, I was really hoping to love this book because I've loved so far the books that I have read by this author, and this one was such a disappointment. We read it for a book club that I do with my mom and my sister-in-law, and it was our first book that we read, and we had really high hopes for it, but it let us down really bad. I ended up giving it a 2 out of 5 stars, and that book is All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover. This book just did not do it for me. I think it's because this was one of her backlist books, and I read a lot of her newer books within the last 5 years, and they're really good, but this one was not it. This is about a couple who are going through problems in their marriage, and you get a then perspective and a now perspective, which I loved the then perspective because it gave the characters more characteristics in the way that they are and more emotion, where you're reading the now, and I was sitting there reading it and I'm like, okay, is it over yet? We understand you're sad and all this other stuff, and I get the story behind this book, but it was just really boring for me compared to Ugly Love or November 9th or It Ends With Us or Verity. So yeah, I'm ready to get rid of this book and sell it to somebody who wants to give it a try. The next book on the stack, I tried reading it last month, listening to it on Libby, and it just was not meshing with me. This is an older YA book, and I've had it on my shelf for a while also, and decided it's time to let it go. And that book is Me and Earl and the Dying Girl by Jesse Andrews. I don't know much about this book, but what I was listening to, it was kind of just boring and I just did not like it, so it's leaving and going off of my shelf. The next books in the stack are actually a series. There's 5 of them, and I've read them all except the last book, and I could really give 2 craps if I finish this series, because the first 3 are more like a trilogy by itself, and then the other 2 are a duology by itself. They continue on with the story, but it's years later. And that series is the Selection series. So we have the Selection, the Elite, the One, the Heir, and the Crown, all by Kiera Cass. Now, if you don't know what the Selection is about, it is about this girl named America who grows up in this world. It's a dystopian world, and there's basically numbers, and she's not very rich, and the prince in this world is trying to find a wife. So it goes on kind of like The Bachelor does, and this is a very old YA series, and you can tell that it is. But I did enjoy the first 3, don't get me wrong, I really did enjoy them. But the last 2 I just could not get into. But I will be selling these as a series on Pangobooks, so if you want to go check that out, I will leave a link, well, my username down below, and you guys can go on there. And if you want to purchase them, they'll be on there for a decent price. But yeah, these books just did not do it for me, and I figured they'd be more for maybe a 10 to 12-year-old if they would like that. The next book on this stack is a thriller that I recently read, and it's more of a legal thriller and deals with a lot of law in it, which I just did not like it. It got towards the end of the book and I started skimming more of it. But that book is The Murder List by Hank Philippi Ryan. I can't even honestly remember what this book is about because I just did not like it and it was so boring to me. But what I can remember is it's about this girl who went to law school and she's in her 30s and she has this internship and somebody from her past cold case comes back up in that. So it was just not it for me. So if you like legal thrillers, you might enjoy this one. And I'm just ready to put more room on my shelf for the other stacks of books that I have sitting around here. The next book on this stack is one that I read a couple months ago, and it was okay. It just wasn't for me, and that book is Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lynn. This is like a Project Runway meets Mulan retelling, and I just can't remember much more about this, but it is a YA fantasy book, and I think if you were more like getting into reading or if you're a young teenager, you would like this, but I just have no use in keeping this or reading the second book at this point. And the last book on this stack is one that I did enjoy, but I just will not ever reread it, and it's a book that is a first book by this author that I've read, and I enjoyed it, and that one is called Nowhere to Hide by Nell Pattinson. This is about, how many friends is it? Like 7 friends, or yeah, who are in this botanical garden type of thing, but it's wintertime, and they're doing research on these birds, and all of a sudden somebody ends up murdered, and they're trying to figure out which one of the group murdered this person. I really enjoyed this. I did not guess, well, I guess 20 pages left in the book, I finally guessed who it was. But it was fun. If you're just getting into thrillers, this would be a good one for you to read and enjoy. But that is it for this video. All the books that you saw in this stack will be on my Pangobooks account. So like I said, I will leave my username down below, so go check that out. I have other books from past unhauls that are on there for sale. And if you enjoyed this video, go down and hit that like, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you will be the first to know. And until next time, keep on reading, people. Bye!